Let me welcome and thank Alyssa DeFilippo from Parents Helping Parents for her partnership and for her participation here today. I'm very eager here and to learn about the resources that she and Parents Helping Parents can provide.
So thank you again, and welcome everyone. As I said, I'm very grateful to have been invited to speak with you today. And I am Alyssa DeFilippo, project manager of a statewide online resource and information hub for transition to adulthood and adult services called Connections California. And I'm with Parents Helping Parents, as Mark said. So the mouthful of a title for this morning's presentation, Mastering Disability Services, Empowering Individuals, Families, Caregivers, and Professionals to Access Disability Services in the state of California. So, sorry. As you know, in California, we're blessed with a plethora of disability services to support folks with disabilities, and hopefully, knock on wood, they all remain. Services are available to all communities throughout California, whether urban or suburban. Uh, Things are available in person and virtually that address areas like independent living, employment, education, health, housing, life planning. And I think I have maybe about 18 links on this slide, and this isn't even an exhaustive list. And I'm betting that many of you know many of these resources. And maybe some of you only know some of them. And as Tish said, you will be getting a copy of this presentation, and you can click away and see if any of these, if you don't know, are able to help you. But I'm a parent of an adult with a disability, and I am from the Parent Center world. And as you heard, I have a 26-year-old, soon to be 27-year-old next week. And that is what catapulted me into this arena. So please meet Grace. I do have permission to share some details about her with you today. And she is so much more than her diagnosis, which is Prader-Willi syndrome. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that later if you'd like. But we have to face it, it is a defining part of her life. She was always a bit of an imp, no stranger to doctors, therapists, and hospitals. She spent more time in clinics at UCSF than on playgrounds for sure. And she always approached any adversity with pluck and determination. She had therapies from when she was 6 months old, regional center early start services until 3 years old. She had an IEP for her whole educational career, and she went through high school and also through a transition program until age 22. She's been supported by DOR along the way, also by the State Council on Developmental Disabilities, SCDD, independent living centers, and now, as you heard, she is in the DDS Regional Center Self-Determination Program. Now, lots of folks don't know about parent centers. Sometimes regional centers will refer folks to us. Sometimes schools will refer. But I was consistently shocked by my daughter's classmates, parents and families not knowing about parent centers in our area. Because every step of the way, since we were referred in a hospital by a social worker to a parent center, we have been supported by parents who kind of walk the walk and talk the talk. And now I've been working in the parent center world for almost 20 years, which is kind of unbelievable. And I'm here today to talk about parent centers. So what are they? Where do you find them? What services are available and who do they serve? And how do parent centers foster community, shared knowledge, and agency collaboration? And what exactly is PHP's Connections California? I know it sounds like a dating site, but it's not. So parent centers support families in a variety of ways. They come in all shapes and sizes, some covering one county in California, others covering 9 or 15. Some centers have developed strong programs and advisory councils for youth, and they also serve professionals, but all of them serve parents and caregivers. This is just an aggregate of all parent-centered data across the nation, and I think it's from 2020, so it might be a little dated, but it's probably still the same today. These categories you see are disability eligibility categories from IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And you'll see that a lot of folks who we serve have autism, but then also a fair amount other health impairment and specific learning disability. So parent centers have been around for more than 4 decades. Sometimes PHP's been around, it'll be 50 years next year. So how did they begin? Uh, Please allow me to introduce Florine Poyadou, here in conversation with Trudy Grable, both PHP legends, women whose shoulders all of us working at parent centers stand on.
Washington, D.C. just loved my looks. No, they loved what PHP was doing. And they had been trying to get a start in some kind of assistance to kids and families with special needs for a long time. The federal government was really interested, from the vice president to Dr. Earl Brewer. They had sent Earl Brewer around the world to see what could be done to help children and families. So I got a call from him, and he did come down to spend about 5 days with us. And he went back to Washington and told the president that if you want this thing to get straightened out, you put a PHP in every county in this country. They made us the national model.
Well, you've done so much. You've done so much for our community.
You know, I get chills every time I hear that. The Parent Training Center movement was born when parents like Florine all over the country sat around their kitchen tables and they said, no, just because my child has a disability, they don't belong in an institution. And that is what Florine was told. Her son had Down syndrome, and she was told she should put him in an institution. She said no. He now lives about 3 blocks away from her. She's in her 90s. He's in his 50s. He's married, has a job, and I think even a dog. And he's living a full life. So it was these moms, and let's keep it real, it was mainly moms that they worked, they collaborated with themselves and with other agencies, and they fought and they gave their hearts and souls to ensure that their loved ones could, would, and should have full lives.
Washington, D.C.
Sorry, I'm not sure why that was another slide. So the Parent Training and Information Centers were born in the late 70s. They're nonprofits funded by the Department of Education, Office of Special Education, so knock wood. We just finished, I didn't personally finish, but folks at PHP finished writing for another 5-year grant cycle. So fingers crossed that PTIs continue to get their funding. There are over 100 of them in the United States. California, you see here, has 6. And if you wanted to take a look at how you find where your parent center is, you can click on when you get this, and perhaps it's in the chat as well, you can find your parent center. You go to anywhere you might want to go to in the country, but if we're interested in California, and there we have not only the parent training information centers, but also community parent resource centers, which are PTIs, but kind of on a smaller scale. They're targeted to a more specific focus group. So there are 6 PTIs and 3 CPRCs in California. And you'll see them all sharing. There's Matrix, where I used to work. So that's how you find out where your Parent Training Information Center is. To full screen. What do parent training centers do? Well, most likely the first contact folks have with training information centers is a voice on the other end of the phone. We have resource specialists, sometimes they're called parent advisors, but there's usually some kind of a helpline to provide one-to-one consultation or service. The thing about PTIs, Parent Training Information Centers, is that they'll service families of infants, toddlers, children, youth, and young adults with disabilities birth through 26. helping parents and caregivers effectively understand and navigate the systems that serve for their children's development and education. And they partner with professionals and policymakers to improve outcomes. Now, not all parent centers do all these things, but many of them have the helpline calls, the peer-to-peer support, in-person and virtualized specialized training with either presentations by staff or by professionals who were brought in, lots of referrals, lots of special education support and training, resources, newsletters, video libraries, all in an effort to help understand the loved one's educational and developmental needs, as I said, but also how to learn how to effectively communicate with service providers and the teams who are serving their loved ones, and how to become a valued member of that loved one's team. And what makes it so authentic is that the majority of employees at the PTIs, I know at least, and pretty much most of them, either have a child or an adult with a disability in their lives, mostly parents, sometimes siblings. Some parents have, some of the staff have parents who have disabilities. But we're distinctly qualified to provide the information and resources because of the lived experience. You know, we really are specialists. We say we have doctorate degrees in raising children with disabilities, and we do, and we're still in school of sorts, and still in training with our own lived experiences. Now, some PTIs have specialties more than others, and most, if not all, of the services PTIs provide are free to families. So, as I said, sometimes there are specialties, and since 1979, the Disability Rights and Education Defense Fund, which is called DREDF, has been dedicated to advancing the civil rights of people with disabilities through various legal avenues. They have a whole legal department and attorneys on staff, as well as being a PTI and assisting families. So you'll often see DREDF partnering with Disability Rights California, bringing lawsuits aimed at protecting and advancing the civil rights of people with disabilities. So anyone can visit their website, get loads of information, subscribe to their newsletter, and educate yourself as to the civil rights litigation pending in California. Our sister agency in LA called TASK, Team of Advocates for Special Kids, they have a very strong assistive technology program with a very informative monthly newsletter. So again, anyone can visit that website to subscribe to that newsletter and get any information on assistive technology, if that's a new term to you, or even if it's an old term, it's good to brush up on things and hear new things that are happening. And at PHP, we have an extensive video library because being smack in the middle of Silicon Valley, we had a green room before everything shifted to being virtual with the pandemic. And so we were starting to build up a video library and curate videos and resources that were out there on that World Wide Web and bring them in and put them into categories and allow folks who would prefer to watch or listen to a video instead of getting something from written communication. And PHP also had something called Techsplorations, where they would have open office hours and folks could actually come in and try out assistive technology tools. That kind of shut down after, with COVID, but hopefully we'll be bringing that back in the very near future. So I bring up this map again because, as you can see, a couple of PTIs handle very large territories, multiple counties, and it's pretty hard to service all those folk. Even if the population might be less in rural counties, maybe the connectivity is worse. So it's really hard to connect. So what did California do? Well, we already agreed. We're very lucky to live in a state where so many resources for folks with disabilities already exist. But California created the Family Empowerment Center. And this is another parent center. This map is a little outdated. There are currently 33 Family Empowerment Centers, FECs, in California's 58 counties, and they're organized into 41 FEC regions. They're funded by the California Department of Education, established in 2001 through a Senate bill and then became part of California Education Code. And originally, there were 12 centers serving 24 counties. And for a long time, these centers just puttered on without having any kind of increase in funding and kept doing the good work on the ground. And then in 2021 to 2022, more funding became available and FECs expanded. And now we have, as I said, 33. So what do FECs do? Well, they basically do the same thing that PTIs do, but the main distinction is that the services are available through each FEC varying on the needs of the community. So some may focus on a particular group or culture, a particular need in an area, but most provide services that the PTIs provide. So you'll see the helplines, you'll see the virtual trainings, you'll see the peer-to-peer support and support groups. And one of the main difference, though, with FECs as nonprofit organizations is that they serve folks with loved ones from 3 years old through 22. So it's basically that school age, including the transition program after high school, that 18 to 22-year-old program. There's another parent center in California called Family Resource Centers that are funded by the Department of Developmental Services, and they serve the little ones. So it's birth to 3. And when there became a lot of new FECs, these Family Resource Centers, FRCs, which served folks 0 to 3, became FECs so they could continue and allow some continuity with the service for families over the years. So the FRC served 0 to 3, and then they could be transferred right over to the FEC, serving more of the educational career. Same as PTIs, they'll serve as FECs serve as a resource for the IEP process to participate in school reform and improvement activities. Many of them provide alternative dispute resolution and work with SELPAs in different areas. And they pretty much all have outside partnerships and agreements with outside agencies. And again, staff, usually parents or some kind of relation to a loved one with a disability, and services mostly free. So I thought that it would be helpful to provide you with some examples of how PTI and FEC staff help parents day to day, month to month, year to year. So what do resource specialists really do? So just to give you some examples, maybe there's a parent of an 18-month-old who thinks that something just isn't right, but the pediatrician keeps saying, oh, they'll be fine, oh, they'll walk, oh, they'll start talking. And maybe that person has a neighbor who has a friend of a friend who has a young one with a disability, or maybe a school-age child with a disability. So they refer to the PTI or the FEC in their area, and that young mom, usually it's a mom, calls and gets a friendly voice on the other end of the phone. And maybe that friendly voice on the other end of the phone can tell them about regional centers, and they don't know about regional centers, and they don't know about the assessment process to become a regional center client and to get into an early start program. So that might open up that parent's eyes to potential to get help for their little one. And what about the single mom who, now that 18-month-old is 3 years old, and they do have an IEP in preschool, and they have it for speech and language, but they also have a 12-year-old with a profound disability. And maybe that's why they thought something might have been, maybe their little one needed some service. And that single mom, she doesn't know about IHSS, in-home supportive services. So again, she's able to call a PTI or an FEC, and they're able to tell her about this service. They're able to direct her to the right place in the county, and maybe even be able to help her get that application in so that maybe she can have some of the financial burden taken off her shoulders, because she can only work maybe 3 hours a day because of the responsibilities she has at home. And certainly there are, I say simple, but they're not always simple, but referrals to social skills groups and therapists. And there are support groups. And there's an explanation of how to request an assessment to a school. Maybe you have a third grader who is spending more time in the office than in the classroom and being labeled as, the problem kid. Well, maybe that kid needs to be assessed. So we kind of help them through the assessment process and get, many PTIs and FECs have assessment letters online that you can use and download. And we explain the rights and responsibilities of special education. And Certainly, we also help with accessing public benefits. Now, it's not like not many PTI or FEC staff I know will actually help fill out an SSI application or help if an appeal is needed, but we certainly have information, and I know at PHP we have a video on how to apply for SSI and the kind of the tips and the tricks, and we have several videos, which I'll be showing you a little later. And certainly, what about that high schooler who at 18 really needs help and support, but doesn't have a very robust transition plan and doesn't really know what they're going to do when they leave school? So the idea behind parent centers is to empower the parent, the family, the caregiver, sometimes the youth themselves, to become advocates for either their loved one or themselves. It's sort of like that saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So that's what we want to do with families and parents, to help them to be informed, collaborative members of whatever team is servicing their loved one, but also to be grateful for the time and the energy that those other members on the team are putting in. Because when I used to do direct service to parents, I don't anymore, but when I used to, I would talk to them about how they should bring an attitude of gratitude to the table, because those folks sitting around the table, no matter what team it might be, whether it's the IPE team, the IPP team, the IEP team, individual education plan, individual program plan at the regional centers, the IPE with DOR, those folks are not just biding their time for when they're going to go retire in the south of France. They're there because they really care. And if you bring an attitude, if you bring an attitude of gratitude, like I said, and you bring information to the table, then everybody can work toward the best possible outcome for your loved one. So I did talk about parent centers fostering community, sharing knowledge, and agency collaboration with other professionals. So whether it's a PTI or an FEC, staff do seek out collaborations with agency folks who serve disabilities within their communities. And this could be a formal collaboration, like the San Diego Local Partnership Agreement, which includes representatives from the FEC in San Diego, which is Exceptional Family Resource Center, the PTI that services San Diego, which is TASC, Disability Rights California, the State Council, regional centers, DOR is always present there. They meet quarterly, they exchange information, and they have guest speakers. In fact, I went and spoke to their group about Connections California not too long ago. Or maybe there are informal collaborations that happen. For example, a colleague at PHP told me this story not too long ago, and she was contacted by an employer who had just hired a young adult with a disability. And the employer was asking, how can I best support this person to do a good job? Now, they said, we like the skills the person brings, but we're just not sure about, this and this and this. So she thanked the employer for reaching out, certainly, and expressed some general thoughts about what might help, but without knowing the situation too well. It was pretty hard to be specific. But she did ask if it was okay to reach out to the family, and was able to arrange that, and then asked the family if they could together reach out to the teacher. And I believe at this point, this young man was in a transition program, so he's in the 18 to 22 program. So they reached out to the teacher. They were able to set up a meeting with the young adult, the parent, the employer, and the teacher. And the teacher was able to help the employer with some scaffolding and some accommodations that could be done on the job site. And it was a win-win situation for all. My colleague actually contacted that employer about 6 months later just to find out how things were going. The young adult was still employed and doing really well. They had instituted some of the accommodations that were discussed in that meeting, and everyone was very happy with the outcome. So PTIs and FECs work together to advance the lives of babies, toddlers, children, youth, young adults. But we're not funded to serve young adults, families with young adults over the age of 26. So what happens with those folks over the age of 26 in the parent center world? So that's where Connections California comes in. PHP saw the need to serve those adults and families with adults 26 or older, along with seeing the need to help families prepare for that all-inclusive transition to adulthood to find more success in adulthood. So transitioning to adulthood, that can be an exciting, overwhelming, frustrating, and enlightening time all at the same time. Having supports before, during, and after transition to adulthood, it's essential for families and for the professionals who serve them. And a well thought out plan, that individualized transition plan, if the student has an IEP, or if they have a 504, or if they just need a plan, just having a plan is essential because it makes all the difference to success for that over 26-year-old. So we're just going to provide a little information here about Connections California. How did it begin? Where is it now? And where is it going? So probably around the summer, fall of 2021, when PHP was thinking about what their strategic initiatives would be for the next 3 years, they were thinking about the calls that they often got from parents of adults in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, who they would service, mind you, and there, no state and federal funding. This was from just discretionary funds. They would serve those folks. And we realized, I wasn't there yet, so we realized big gaps in preparing and planning for transition to adulthood. And there were so many parents who were still struggling with adults who, could have been firmly rooted in adulthood. So as PHP approaches anything, there were surveys, there were focus groups with professionals and youth and parents and community partners. They called them listening sessions. And they found out that if there is no robust transition support, people will fall through the cracks. And that there's tons of information out there, but not one statewide resource with easy access dedicated to information that parents and young adults need when preparing for transition and searching for those adult services. A one-stop shop, if you will. And we also know that there are a fair amount of services out there for folks with ID, DD, intellectual disabilities, but not a whole lot for those more quote unquote invisible disabilities. And we all also know that the parent centers get funding up to the age of 26, but not really to navigate the adult world. So with a wing and a prayer, some spit and some gum, we began Connections California with no funding to speak of. And where is it now? So we have built a comprehensive online statewide resource information hub that provides general information to families throughout California about transition to adulthood and adult services, including families with loved ones over 26. And I keep saying that, but it is kind of really important. We have information in English and Spanish on person-centered planning, financial planning and public benefits, self-advocacy and self-determination skills, life skills, learning styles, living options, educational and employment options, inclusive practices, and connections within the community, which is why it's really important. And we rely on our sister agencies, our sister PTIs and FECs, who often come and drop in on our online events that I host or my colleagues host. And drop local resources in the chat. Like if we have something on housing, we might have some folks from Rowell Family Empowerment Center up north come in and drop notes about what's happening with housing in the Shasta and up north area, because we don't know what's happening with housing up north, so we rely on our sister agencies. And we also want folks to feel more comfortable with navigating all the service agencies, the regional centers, the state council, the independent living centers, and DOR. And certainly addressing that aging caregiver space, concentrating on how to prepare for when we, those aging caregivers, are no longer around. So we have built this solid foundation. We have definitely been intentional about addressing English and Spanish. And we have the topic areas of self-advocacy, transition planning for teens and tweens, education and training, work preparation, and adult life has, 7 categories of its own. So it services, anyone, anytime, because of the robust video library. It's free. And we do have about 90 to 100 live events a year, and very grateful to the professionals and the experts like Tish, who was just graced the Connections California screen on Tuesday night, who come and give their time and allow us to record them, and that's how we fill our video library. And as I said before, we started transitioning everything to the virtual world. And before Connections California existed, PHP already had a pretty robust video library in different subject areas. So we curate things and we try and keep it down to a manageable amount. So where is it now? Instead of my, going on and talking at you, I just wanted to show you what Connections California looks like. So this is the landing page. Here are the topic areas that we talked about, right? The transition to teens and tweens, self-advocacy, work preparation, education training, adult life. Let's just click on adult life. All the pages are set up like this, where we have other resources. So if you want to hop over to the UC Davis Mind Institute, Transition to Adulthood, great resource. The ARC, Center for Future Planning. There's the Caring Futures from the ARC. We have parent support groups for adult life. I'll talk about them in just a little bit. And then we have these categories in adult life: financial planning, health and wellness, housing, living options, legal aspects, public benefits, regional center services. So let's just click into public benefits. We'll see the same thing. Other resources on the side, the Social Security Disability Benefits Planner, which I'm sure many of you on this call are aware of, the California Disability Benefits 101, which I know is one of Tish's favorite sites. And here are videos on public benefits. Now, we keep our videos on the short side, and we're trying to get them even shorter, but the presentation is about maybe anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes, and we leave enough time for questions because we have a very inquisitive statewide community, and we have lots of questions, as Tish saw on Tuesday night. Don't always have the time to answer all of them, but we do have lots of questions. And here we have videos. Oh, this is missing its description. I have to make a note of that. So how to ensure my loved one is taken care of after I'm gone. What's SSI, SDI, and DAC benefits? So you can click onto any of these. If you see the PHP logo here, that means it's a PHP event. If there's no logo, then like this one, IHSS Services and Assessments, that means it's been a curated video from the World Wide Web. So again, you can click through a number of videos, some in different languages, some about SSI applications. So, you get the idea. We also have, I'll bring you to the calendar in a minute, but we also have a directory. Now, this resource directory, this is something that is kind of unique to Parents Helping Parents. It's because it's a resource directory that's available 24/7 to anyone. People can put in their resources, and then they're vetted by our group of very dedicated volunteers. But what we've done then with this 3,000 strong video resource guide is target public benefits. So if you click on that, you'll see, public benefits, planning and assistant. And we're trying to expand throughout the state. I mean, obviously, because Parents Helping Parents has a catchment area of 5 counties, in the South Bay, most of the resources that have been built up over time serve the South Bay. But you see here, we're looking where we have something in San Diego, down in LA. So we're doing our best to expand as Connections California expands as a statewide site. And then we also have support groups. Now, our support groups before COVID were in person, so it would be pretty tough for people all around the state to join. But even before COVID, this group right here, Adult Children with Developmental Disabilities, has a Facebook group, which I believe is actually international. And it is facilitated by a couple of real good volunteers and an ex-employee of Parents Helping Parents. Oh, Trudy Grable, the aforementioned Trudy Grable, is one of the forces behind this support group. And this is a wonderful supportive group of those us aging caregivers who need all the help we can get at some time. So that's that. I just want to also show you our Spanish. And we pretty much have the same information that we have in English, we provide in Spanish, but let's just say We have these other resources here from the U.S. Department of Education, the California Department of Education, the California Transition Alliance. If you don't know that site, this is a really good one to visit. But especially if you have a younger, or if you're maybe up to 22. But we have instructions here on how to use Google Translate to translate websites and PDF. So Spanish speakers could also get that. But then we also have everything that we provide in English, in Spanish. So here we have our Spanish videos, and same kind of thing, 40 to 45 minutes with the video, 15 minutes for Q&A. Now, we were very intentional. We wanted to give an equal effort to providing Spanish versions as the English, because we have a large Hispanic population in the state of California, and we don't want to leave parents behind like that. We'd love it if we could have it all languages, and if we could be doing ASL with every presentation. We'll get there. We'll get there. I also wanted to show you our calendar of events. So as I said, we have 90 to 100 events a year, and we take many of those and put them in our video library. We have monthly themes. So the spring semester starts in the end of January, goes through to February. February was preparation and self-advocacy month. March is work preparation and work month. So we had DOR presentations, and here was, this was Tish came and did worried about losing public benefits while working. And we have folks from DOR coming to talk about student services on the 26th, helping students with disabilities succeed. So you would just press on that and register. It's Elizabeth Musgrove and Christina Canavari are going to be here. So we're very excited that they are able to join us. So the sort of orangey goldish are Spanish, the purple are English, and the goldish purple are our English presentations with Spanish interpretation. We actually have more Spanish monolingual presentations this spring than we do English. And if you count the Spanish interpretation for English events, then we have many more, and have had many more for the past, I'd say, 3 or 4 semesters of programming. So the presentations are mainly professionals and experts from the outside world, but we also have parents from PHP doing presentations. We did a parent perspective series in February, and I actually presented on the transition from pediatric to adult healthcare, which is huge. And where I feel like with my family, we're smack in the middle of that right now. So as I said, we're very grateful to the professionals and experts who come and help make our program what it is. The other thing I'd want to show you just before we end here is our timeline. Now, perhaps folks might be older than 22 here, but there are still things that you could find perhaps useful. Here we have, I'll make it a little bigger. We have a glossary of transition terms where you can go through and just kind of get yourself familiar. There are 4 pages of them. We have listings for financial assistance and public benefits, a little how-to, how to use a timeline, go slow, take it one step at a time. And then, of course, we have the timeline. So you can look at the under 12, 12 to 16, 16 to 18, 18 to 22, 22 plus. And then here are the categories of Connections California. And say you wanted to know what was going on with CalFresh, you click, you come to CalFresh, and you can get information about that. So we try and keep the resources different and fresh. CalFresh, fresh. We try and keep the resources fresh on the timeline and not have too much repetition with what the pages The Connections California web pages are not always possible. There's one DOR site, right? So, we might be going to the DOR site off the timeline and from the pages. Okay, so back to our full screen. Oh, where is Connections California going? So we're continuing. We're definitely in a growth phase. We just finished up recently a culturally and linguistically competent training focusing on effective communication skills for our monolingual Spanish-speaking families. We have a video in our library on it, and then we're also doing this event in person at PHP locations and at the San Andreas Regional Center. And we also conceived the training as a train the trainers. So we also have involved a couple of our sister agencies, and they will be using that presentation in their communities if they wish. We're also exploring doing a lot more with that person-centered support plan, addressing the needs of the aging caregiver. The aforementioned Trudy Grable is a person-centered planner, thinker extraordinaire, and she has a wonderful way of teaching folks how to get started on that, making that blueprint, and also involving the person with the disability in making that blueprint because, hey, it's their lives, it's your life. You should be included in what makes you happy, what you want, what you desire in life. So we're really trying to look toward presenting more of that. And in fact, on the calendar, I didn't show you, but we have 2 events coming up with Trudy, and it's called I Won't Be Here Forever. And it talks about this plan, talking about one-page descriptions in the person-centered thinking world, and talking about some of the financial things you need to get in place. We're also looking to form a summer educator online academy. Teachers are often the first point of contact. And the more they know, the more they can refer parents to PTIs and FECs, the better outcome for all young adults. And, we'd love to hire transition to adulthood and adult services resource specialists. It's just not in the budget right now. And we do not at this time provide direct client service. But we're looking to that as a goal for the future. So if anybody knows any trees in any backyards that have some, spare money there, we'd love to go and have the opportunity to pick some of that so we could provide a resource specialist in this specialty. But that's not to say that if you were to call the FEC or PTI in your area, that the person answering the phone would not be able to help with needs of families of adults, that over 26. All of them will, I'm sure. But if you were to call, if you live in San Jose and you called up to Matrix in Marin, that other person at the other end of the phone, they might help you, but they're also going to refer you back to the PTI in your area because that PTI is funded to serve. PHP is funded to serve San Jose. Matrix is funded to serve Marin, Sonoma, Solano. So what we'd love is for every family in the state of California who's interested in investigating these things, at least right now, the English and Spanish speaking families, that they're able to have this access, from San Diego all the way up to the tip of the California northern border. So again, from PHP, we serve Monterey, San Benito, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz counties. Connections California is our online resource and information hub, accessible 24/7 and free to all. And PHP, like all the other PTIs and FECs, we understand what raising a child with a disability means. We understand what it's like to have adults with disabilities. We understand what it's like to be adults with disabilities. And we want to be there for every stage of the journey. So I thank you for listening. I hope you found the presentation useful, informative, and I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, that is a lot of information. Thank you so much, Alyssa, for sharing, valuable insights, as well as a tremendous number of resources, really to help individuals at all ages. I did see a few comments here. Thank you so much for the information. I've already seen 3 things that can really, assist me. let's see if we can't group some of these questions together. There have been a few questions that are really targeting assistance for people over, for some reason, it's age 26 that keeps coming up, but
Yeah, well,
can
that's
you pick?
because,
Okay.
yeah, PTIs are funded through from
Mhm.
0 to 26.
So do you have any resources you can recommend for sort of that lifelong support after 26?
Well, like I said, uh, I've worked at 2 PTIs out of the 6 in the state of California. And if a person called with a 36-year-old, we're going to talk to you. We're going to help you. Maybe you're having an SSI problem. Maybe you're having some kind of issue with employment. We're going to help you, even though we're not funded to help you. So I would say that if you have an issue, don't hesitate to call. Folks will help. And if we ever do get the funding to have resource specialists for Connections California, they would definitely be able to help, because now, don't hold me to this because this is my wish. This is not Parents Helping Parents talking. This is Alyssa DeFilippo talking. If we did get a resource specialist to help, they would be able to help anyone in the state answer these general questions and then refer to the PTI or the FEC if you had local housing questions, something like that.
So I have a question here about what do regional centers do for people with disabilities, and how do they work with other groups like the Department of Rehab or
Hmm,
schools?
Okay.
So, I mean, do you
So
want to try and answer that?
sure,
Okay.
regional centers are they're nonprofits. There are 21 of them in the state of California, and we like to say 21 regional centers, 22 different ways of doing things, because they are nonprofits. And even though they're funded by the Department of Developmental Services, they have guidance, but they all have like different ways of doing things. But they service from birth through the lifespan. So when someone else asked before, what can you do if you're over 26? The regional center, if you are a regional center client, is the big source of support and scaffolding for adults with disabilities in 5 areas, though. It's CP, epilepsy, intellectual disability, autism. And that doesn't mean that everybody with autism is going to be eligible to be a regional center client. And the sort of functional intellectual disability. That's the 5th category. And there are eligibility requirements that you go through for both the 0 to 3. That's when I mentioned early start. That's the regional center program for 0 to 3-year-olds, where they get early intervention and they may end up with an IEP at school, they may not. And then you go into Lanterman services, which is the California legislation that governs the regional centers. And that lasts from 3 through the lifespan. And during school, regional centers don't do all that much with services. It's when the student, the youth, the young adult graduates from school and goes out into the world that regional centers provide support with maybe day programs, or they also have employment programs, although they will work with DOR. Well, the regional centers are what are called the payer of last resort. So you have to exhaust any kind of generic resource like health insurance for speech therapy before the regional center will pay for speech therapy. You'll have to exhaust DOR services for student services or supported employment before the regional center will kick in with their employment services. But the regional center has many programs once you're out of that school environment, or a few while you're still in the school environment, like the paid internship program. That's something where an employer can fill out a bunch of paperwork and become a conduit to help give an internship to a youth or young adult with a disability, and money gets funneled through DDS, through the regional centers, and they actually pay for the salary of the intern. And that usually lasts for about 6 months, with the idea that this intern is being prepared and giving some generalized skills to be able to be employed, and maybe even employed at that place. Like Costco might be a paid internship program, and they may have 8 folks, and maybe they hire 5 at the end of the 6 months. So regional centers do a bunch of things with housing as well.
We really appreciate you being here. Thanks again for taking the time. Amazing.
Oh, thank you. As I said, I was grateful for the opportunity to share. Thank you for having me.